I'm Dr. Danny McLane, ADIO Chiropractic in Libertyville. In a world of specialists, I'm a generalist, which means I have a lot of information about a lot of different categories. I can connect the dots, make sense out of the big picture stuff, and I can weave through all the different storylines really to produce the results that you want for health. Today, we're talking about clean eating. So anytime you learn anything, it's always good to have a goal in mind. So family, health, success, community, care. What are your goals and how is it that you like to achieve them? Pick one thing that you'd like to get from this presentation, one of these goals that you would do better with if you were more healthy with your eating habits. Okay? Moving right along. Why am I here today? Because most of what you know about food is wrong. Pop quiz. Which breakfast is best? Farmer's omelet, hash browns, milk, whole wheat bagel, low-fat veggie cream cheese, and OJ. These are actual examples that people have asked me. Oh, doc, I eat really healthy. This is what I had for breakfast. What do you think? Or coffee, black. Doesn't really sit, there's not like an obvious answer here, right? All right, moving right along. Which fruit is better? Fresh fruit or frozen fruit? Anybody have any ideas? Sometimes. That's the real answer. Which vegetable is better, raw or cooked? Raw. Aha. But you see what happens, right? Inevitably, when I'm talking to people about food, what ends up happening is they're like, oh, well, I heard somebody say this. Well, I heard somebody say that. And they did this research, or I read this article, or I heard it on the radio, or whatever. I talked to this expert, and they seem to think that this particular way is the best. So to circumvent all of that, I was like, well, this is pretty terrible. I don't like to have general opinions. I like to have very concrete evidence. And the simple answer is in food science, it changes every 3 to 9 months depending on what they're studying. And it gets more and more complex as time goes on. So as part of my due diligence, I make sure to read between 10 to 25 research articles every single day, somewhere in the food science, some in the other health, biochemistry, that sort of stuff, just to make sure that I stay up to speed on this, because it changes all the time. So the answer to this question is, which vegetable is better? Depends on what you want from that vegetable. Raw vegetables have certain things. Cooked vegetables have easier access to certain things. So there's no one right answer. So you can see how it's confusing, and that's why this binary decision-making process about food is wrong. What calorie source is better? Fat, protein, carbohydrates, or alcohol? We know one of those is not the answer, boys. Fat is actually the absolute correct answer. Right. Which is why, if we click back real quick, which breakfast is best? Number one. Farmer's omelet, hash browns, and milk. Why not the whole wheat bagel? Carbs. You know, a piece of whole wheat toast raises your blood sugar higher, faster, and longer than eating pure sugar out of a bowl with a spoon. You'd be better off eating a Snickers for breakfast than anything whole wheat. Anybody want the science behind it? It's really fascinating. Somebody say yes, please, please. Okay, yes, thank you. Awesome. Good volunteer. All right, so starch is tightly packed sugar, amylopectin. In wheat, there's a high concentration of amylopectin A. As soon as your saliva hits that, it starts to break down into sugar. And because it's so tightly packed, you can get more sugar in a tighter space. So it basically is like a jack-in-the-box. And as soon as you eat it, it explodes with sugar. So it drives your blood pressure, it drives your blood sugar up high enough to actually kill off beta cells in your pancreas that produce insulin. Oh, all right. So certainly not that. Oh, and low-fat cream cheese. It's not so much that it's veggie cream cheese, because that part's good. That was a red herring. The low-fat piece is bad because if you had more fat, it would actually slow down the glycemic impact. So if you're going to eat something starchy, it should be drowning in fat. All right. Oh, and the orange juice? Oh, hold on a second. Anybody like your joints? Don't drink orange juice. Okay, moving on. Why am I here? Because health is wealth. You guys understand money better than anybody else I know. That's what I do in health. So this is where we meet. Percentage of bankruptcies from medical bills. You have several options up here on the screen. Anybody want to venture a guess? Current statistic is 65% of all bankruptcies come from medical bills. Must be a lot of sick people, right? Must be a lot of really bad stuff. Why am I here? Because your diet sucks. If you eat like the standard American. What percentage of nutrient density does the standard American diet have? You notice the acronym is SAD? Like anybody else catch that? Because that's what stood out to me. I was like, oh. What nutrient density is there in the standard American diet as compared to the allowances, what you should have every day? Anybody want to guess? 47%. 63% of the calories that you eat have no nutritional value if you eat the way a standard American does. That means they are functionally malnourished. They are overfed and undernourished. The heaviest man on record is like 1,068 pounds. They brought him to the hospital, severe malnutrition. Oh, yeah. Your body doesn't crave calories. 1 pound of fat is 3,500 calories. If you're hungry, you're either thirsty or malnourished. You need certain nutrients. And that gets into a deeper conversation. But again, framework, we're working through here. Why am I here? Lifestyle kills. We talked about the bankruptcies. What percentage of death is lifestyle related? Anybody want to take a crack at it? I got 65 to 80? 80%. Absolutely. So, and this is stuff like sedentary lifestyle. Sitting is the new smoking, by the way, in case you weren't up to speed on that. But food is literally the building blocks of what you're made of. You replace 1% of your cells every single day. And if you replace that in an inflammatory environment, it causes problems. People talk about cancer as like the big problem. I'll give you a little secret. Everybody beats cancer 6 times a minute, every day, all day long. Your body replicates 1% of your cells every single day, and some of them are bad. They get broken down and recycled for spare parts and turn into good cells. If you have a bad lifestyle, that compounds that, and it actually makes you age quicker. And this is not like you make it to the end and then you're dead. When this takes years off your life, it doesn't take the bad ones out of the end. It takes the good ones out of the middle. Okay. Structure times function is quality of life. Want quality of life? What is your structure? It's your body. What is your function? It's your chemistry. If you look at it at a microscopic level, structure is chemistry and function is neurology. We work with both of those, balance them out. We'll get to that later. What? What is clean eating? Nutrition. It's more than just what you eat, really. There's 3 levels of nutrition. This is where we start to bridge the gap between what you eat and what your body can do with it. 1, from your plate to your face, also known as the last 7 inches of freedom you have in this world. And this is what do you eat, what actually makes it in. If you see that little kid up there, he's got a bunch he missed. Those are free calories, those don't count. Okay, moving on. Anybody ever played this game at the carnival? Whatever duck you pick out, right? There's thousands and thousands. This is what you absorb, what goes from your gut, what actually gets inside, what you digest, and goes from your gut to your blood. This is the number one problem that most people have with food, is they eat well, or maybe they don't digest well. By the time you're 40, your digestive enzymes are half of what they were when you were 20. This is why a lot of people have gastric problems as they age. Also, if you have a head injury or have had a head injury in your life, it can pinch the nerve that goes to your stomach to tell you to produce enough stomach acid. If you don't produce enough stomach acid, you don't digest your food chemically, you try to break it down mechanically, so then you get reflux because it squeezes and squeezes. Your stomach doesn't have teeth. Thankfully, it would be weird. But it squeezes and squeezes and squeezes, and then you get regurgitation. So then you have acid in the wrong place. Most medical doctors will give you an antacid. So if you have low stomach acid that puts stomach acid in the wrong place, and you get an acid reducer, you're getting further away from balanced, right? So, and I have done this hundreds of times in my clinic. Somebody comes in, they're like, I'm taking these acid reducers, they're not working. I said, okay, go talk to your doctor. I can't consult you on medication. However, I can talk to you about physiology. And physiology says you probably have too low of stomach acid. And I do the testing and verify that that is actually what they have before I just throw some random solution to them. But inevitably, it helps them to digest better. It fixes that problem so that you don't have that functional that a malabsorption problem. All right, from your blood to your cells, what actually gets in? This is the deepest level of nutrition. You can imagine your blood vessels as a giant open hallway with spaceships zooming through them. That's how I imagine it. It's pretty cool. You should try it. Anyway, so you have all these nutrients flowing through your system. The problem is if you have free radicals, if you have a lot of, everybody familiar with free radicals? These are the inflammatory compounds that are a natural byproduct of metabolism. They go up when you get stressed out, when you have a physical injury, when you're exposed to either extreme heat or extreme cold, if you have other chemical issues. So this is inflammation, right? This is one of the biggest things that comes from lifestyle. So a radical is basically a very fancy kind of acid that will go over and grab a hold of anything it touches and rip a chunk off of it. And if that happens to be your vitamin C or vitamin A or your retina or your liver, it causes damage and then your body has to fix that. This happens constantly all the time. So if you have really inflamed blood, you could have pretty good nutrition, pretty good digestion, and still have lots of issues. This gets more into the really deep technical scientific stuff, so I don't want to dig too deep. I want to cover the rest of what we're going to cover today, but I want you to think about that, okay? So it's not just the food choices you make. It gets deeper, and we'll cover that. So this is a very scientific picture of what we talked about from 2 to 3, what actually gets into your cell. Cholesterol is a major building block. I just wanted to point that out. Pores, so all of these are little channels and such. In order for something to actually be used by your cell, it has to get from the outside to the inside. There's this phospholipid bilayer. Sounds really cool. Basically, that's the cell wall. And if you have a lot of inflammation that's damaged, or if you don't have the right biomarkers in your blood, you have issues at the cellular level. And there's ways we can correct that, and they're way more simple than understanding what this diagram actually means. All right, chill time. I purposely put in here a little brain break because that's a lot. All right, take a deep breath. You had the wow, now time for the how. All right, this is it. If you get this, you get it. I'm gonna spend some time on this. If you look at your plate, oh wait, I have a pointer right here. Push the right button, push the right button, push the right button. You guys, thank you, I appreciate that. All right, so this is your plate. This is your calorie distribution. So if you notice, this is a circle, this is also a circle. Okay, so 50% of your plate should be vegetation. 25% of what you eat should be protein. Another 25% is what you should have as fruit. Now, if you look on there, you're like, hey doc, where's the grain? It's not on there. Okay. Can you? Sure. Should you? Debatable. If you do this right, you don't need grain. Grain is starvation food. Can you eat a French fry? Absolutely. Is it the best thing for you? I don't have to answer that question. Okay. All right, so this is what your plate should look like. I made this as simple as possible based on everything that I've learned. It could be way more complicated. All right, so let's look at your calories. Remember what we said early on? Best source of calories is fat. Boom, right here. Let's have a little quick story. Okay, so protein, carbohydrates, 25, 25. So those are your ratios for what your calories look like. And if you don't know how many calories you should be eating, that's another calculation we can run and give you very specifically, not just percentages, but grams and actual total calories. That's one thing that I do for people as well. All right, so if you eat too much fat, anybody have an idea of what happens to that? It's stored as fat, correct. If you eat too much carbohydrate, if you have a whole big loaf of French toast, my fat kid days are showing. I actually have eaten an entire loaf of French toast. Why do you think I learned how to eat well? What happens? So the carbohydrates turn to sugar, which that sugar then turns to fat. Your body stores it as fat. Guess what happens if you eat too much protein? Your body turns the protein into sugar through glyconeogenesis, and then turns that sugar into, say it with me now, fat. Okay. So if you have hyperproteinemia, meaning too much protein in your blood, like if you eat like the Fred Flintstone gigantic pile of, yeah, now we're talking. Your body can't break down all of that protein. So it saturates your blood and it forces its way through the kidneys. It causes lots of problems. Also tends to ferment and rot in the gut. gross. That's why people that eat way too much meat smell terrible, because they are actually rotting their food instead of digesting it. They produce compounds called putrescine and cadaverine. All right, so let's talk about this just real quick. Your calorie distribution should look approximately this way. Now, I did, full well knowing, put up this bottom part, understanding that y'all are good at math. And that's not good math, if anybody caught that, right? Right, and that's a variable. So you can apply that 10% to anywhere on here that you would like. You can mix and match between categories. That's the wiggle room you have, all right? So 40% of what you eat should be raw. Really interesting research about digestion shows that if you eat a fully cooked meal, you actually have an immune response to food. If you eat raw food, you don't have that same immune response. Interesting. The other thing about raw food, it's got a lot of really good stuff in it. Well, however, raw food is hard on the digestion. It takes a little bit more energy to break it down, to break through that cell wall. So there are ways, and if you look up raw food, holy cow, it is an entire lifestyle. It's fantastic. It's a lot of work, but they know what they're doing, at least from what I've read. Really, the issue with raw is it's hard to extract all the benefit from that, so you have to do some of the work in the kitchen. So instead of cooking, you're just cutting and juicing and grinding and sprouting and so on and so forth. All right, so cooked. Cooked is much easier to digest, and it's much better for you. We're going to go into some of these in great detail. And then fermented. Ooh, that's probably new to a lot of people. Excellent. All right, moving on. Vegetables. So now we're going to take this, then we're going to go through this, and then we're going to talk about these. So what is on your plate, what your calories are, and then how you prepare it. Ready? Here we go. Vegetables. This is 50% of your food volume. Half should be leafy. Half should be fruiting. So like a carrot or an eggplant is a fruiting vegetable. Spinach, kale, endive, radicchio. You get fancy with salads. There's all different kinds of leaves. Leaves, green leafy vegetables, are nature's multivitamin. What has more potassium? Green leafy vegetables, banana. It was a setup. It should be real easy. Green leafies, right? Magnesium, copper, selenium, calcium. We could go through all of it. People are like, oh, I should drink milk for calcium. No, you should eat some spinach. Okay. This is one of my favorite parts of the whole presentation right here. And everybody can read this or no? It says, it reduces all-cause mortality. You die less if you eat enough vegetables for any reason. Okay, good talk. Protein. Lots of different styles, lots of different kinds. This is where we factor in cheese and nuts. This is the building blocks of your body. Your hormones are protein. Your blood is protein. Your ligaments, your tendons, your eyes, your toenails, your hair, your neurosignaling compounds, your immune compounds. If you think back to that slide, I'm not going to flip back to it because it'll give everybody motion sickness. On that slide, there was all these weird little bumps and lumps and stuff. That is all protein with some fats associated with it. Glycoproteins, lipoproteins. So protein is the building block for what you need. And again, if you eat too much, it can mess up your digestion and your kidneys and stuff. So the recommendation, you want to write this down, for protein is 35 grams per serving. You don't really digest more than that. And you can have that like about every hour if you need to bulk up or if you have a high need for protein if you're doing a lot of athletics. Everybody see that's a fruit salad? So fruit, the easy way to remember it, this is nature's fireman. This has the highest concentration of antioxidants. What's really cool about fruit is every one of these colors that you see here, in this dark blue, this bright red, yellow, this green, I don't know if you can tell this is green from a kiwi down here. All of these different color compounds are biologically active. They have fancy names like anthocyanidins. Or most people know from tomatoes, lycopene. Everybody knows that tomatoes are fruit, right? Wisdom is not putting it in a fruit salad? Okay. So fruit is also brain food. Fat, we talked about how that needs to be your main source. Your most healthy fats are butter. Yeah, butter's back. Olive oil, coconut oil, and then you can have some more exotic things like walnut or grapeseed oil. If you eat animal fat, you get all the benefits of fat, but you also have some of the cleanup. So the cleaner sources of fat you have, the easier it is for your digestion. Full disclosure, I eat a stick of butter every day. Because I also have a 5,000 calorie diet, because I went through and did my calculation with my body weight and my age and how much I exercise. I need about 5,000 calories a day. It's really hard to get that eating spinach. So, just saying, you get sick of spinach real quick. And butter's awesome. All right, so protein. Everybody hold up your hand. How? Okay, so this square is about 1 serving of protein. Make it simple for you. I think that's... it's really nice, but it's missing something, don't you think? There we go. All right, cool. So, carbohydrates. If you notice, I did not put up gummy bears. Sorry. Now, of all the sugary things you can eat, gummy bears probably have the most nutritional value because they're made from, they boil bones to get the gelatin, the collagen out. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So after they scrape all the meat off of it, they take, and you can actually Google this, you can see giant piles of bones. They move around with a skid steer. They boil out the collagen. Collagen plus water is gelatin. They use gelatin to make gummy bears. It's good. It's good for you too, actually. There's a lot of really good compounds that you need from bones. Like bone broth, one of the most healing things you can do for your gut. So if you don't like bone broth, get you some gummy bears. He's like, and I'm done. My doctor said I should, Haribo, here I'm coming. All right, so carbohydrates should come from your vegetables. If you notice, this is a picture of root vegetables. You have carrots, turnips, beets, parsnips. That's where your carbohydrates should come from, roots and fruits. Got it? Next. That was what to eat. This is how to eat it. Here we go. Raw versus cooked. Everybody get the visual? Okay, so raw, cooked. Get it? This does something. This just is unpleasant to clean up. This should come from whole foods, eaten in its entirety. Moving on, raw versus cooked. What's with the glowing tomato? This is actually an this is a Carillion photography picture, which shows how much active electricity, ions, which by the way, ions are all the active chemistry. So this shows how active that food is in your body. Here's broccoli. Oh, broccoli. All right, this is an enzyme. It's super beautiful. You know what makes it this funny shape? Is the configuration of all the stuff in it. So if this gets changed, it won't work. A lot like this. You snap off one of those pieces of the key, it won't work. Those enzymes are what help you do literally everything. They reduce activation energy, so it takes less energy to do all your biological functions. If you run out of enzymes, your body is at a significant deficit. By the way, a lot of medications work against enzymes. So again, it's one of those things. If you eat healthy, hopefully you won't need medications. This is an actual visual showing what it does. If you look up here, this is two things. They activate the thing. This is what it looks like in 3D electron microscopy, just showing you that if this was not the right shape, this wouldn't happen. That's all you need to take from this slide. Got it? So if you heat it up, if you cook it, it breaks and it changes the shape of that. Right? Everybody see chicken? It goes from like clear to white. You cook a shrimp, it goes from gray to pink. That's this. All right, lock and key model. This is how it works. Right? The thing comes in, something happens, and they break apart. But this part doesn't get used up. This is the enzyme that just does its job over and over and over. You need enzymes. Raw, fresh, smoothie. Break it down, break open that cell wall. Juice, extract the good stuff out. Jailbreak it. Got me? These are 3 different ways that you can eat fresh food. If you could think of other ways, by all means. I just wanted to get you thinking about it. All right. Living. Ooh. Living food has the highest concentration of enzymes during that plant's life cycle. Sulforaphane is a compound found in broccoli that kills breast cancer cells. Guess when it's the most active, when it's the highest concentration? Broccoli sprouts, 4 days old. Cooked. Raw versus cooked. You understand the metaphor here? This jar is open, this jar is closed. There's things that do not come out of plants until you cook them. Raw, here's your gummy bears. It's all in there. Boom! All right, so now you can get them out. So cooking breaks open the cell wall to get stuff out. So, for example, vitamin C and beta-carotene. If you have a carrot, if you eat it raw, you get more vitamin C. If you cook it, you get more beta-carotene. You also get more vitamin A. This is the way to cook, hot and fast. Cooks the outside, steams the inside, and it also sanitizes your food so you don't have to worry about any weird foodborne pathogens. Low and slow. This preserves the proteins. If you cook a steak over high fire, you can actually cause those proteins to become carcinogenic. They become cancer-causing. So if you cook it low and slow, it preserves all that while releasing all the good stuff. Steamy. It's fast, it's easy, and it preserves most of the nutrition inside the food. A lot of these vitamins are water soluble. We're mostly water. That's how they get into our system. If you steam it, you're not boiling it. When you boil it, it pulls a lot of that water out with the nutrition with it. Baked. Again, low and slow. This is actually the best way to make things soft. So if you don't chew well, you can always do it like this. This is just a nice picture to look at. No, just kidding, this is bacteria. All right, fermented. Dairy. Everybody understands yogurt, kefir? Yeah? Okay. When you think fermented, think pre-digested, okay? There's certain things that take a long time to break down in your system. Cow's milk is one of them. If you let these bacteria work on it for you for a while, man, you're in good shape. Sauerkraut. These are more examples of fermented foods because most people are like, I don't know what a fermented, is there other fermented things I can have? So sauerkraut, super easy to make. Kimchi is another one. You take all those delicious vegetables you see there on that tray, throw them in a bucket and let the lactobacillus break it down. And what's cool about it is your bacteria actually create their own enzymes. So they enhance your digestive system. Kombucha, ooh, anybody want to drink that? It looks kind of grisly, but it's amazing for you because it has a bunch of pre-digested stuff. Those bacteria make their own chemistry for you. This is an easier way to stomach kombucha. I actually know this lady. She's out of Vernon Hills. She literally quit her corporate job to go make kombucha, and she makes a really good one. So if you don't want to drink that, make your own and have your house smell like an open stomach. There you go. Right, and they come in delicious flavors. Yeah, sorry for that graphic. All right. How about pickles? Anyone take a crack at it? No. There you go. If you make your own pickles, there you have it. But most pickles are pickled, not fermented. There's no active cultures. That's the point. How about wine and beer? No. We go back there. You go back to, are there live active cultures? Simple answer is no. All right. So this is the part where I'm going to do some shameless pandering. Follow me on YouTube for a couple of reasons. You notice I got my video guys with me today. Everything that I'm doing, I'm putting up on my YouTube channel so that way you can rewatch it. And you can relearn and you can go through it. I'm going to send you a summary of this, but I guarantee you 6 months from now you'll probably have questions. That video, once it's done, will go up there and you can watch it as many times as you need as a little refresher. Maybe every January you get your plan ready to launch into healthy eating for the rest of the year and you remind yourself. Or you have somebody that's like, I don't know, that seems a little far-fetched and unfathomable. You could be like, well, you should watch this video on YouTube. This guy explains it pretty well. And hopefully I've done that for you guys today. And with that being said, thank you very much. Remember, structure, function, and quality of life. Thank you.
How about probiotics? Do you feel that they're valuable or worth it because they're expensive?
If you get the right ones, absolutely. So do you have, so yes, all probiotics have a certain function and feature. There's a couple of them that outshine all of them. Like, for example, Lactobacillus rhamnosus actually coats the lungs, prevents lung infection, also prevents infection of all the delicate linings. For women, it prevents bacterial vaginosis. It also interacts with the GABA pathway of the brain to reduce anxiety. So that one's a pretty useful one. And then that's more for the female side of things. More for the male side of things is Lactobacillus reuteri or reuteri, depending on how you pronounce it. And that actually helps prevent testicular atrophy in males. Also helps to reduce the symptomatology of autism spectrum disorders in lab rats is what they've tested it on so far, but it actually changes the way that we socially interact. I could do a whole conversation just about probiotics. 100%. Wide and varied species, so you can rotate through multiple different kinds because they're all grown in different labs. They have different features, different functions. We don't eat right anymore. We really should eat, go outside, grab something from the garden and eat it. Our body's really good at killing off the stuff we don't need, but also keeping the stuff that we do need. But if we're not introducing new bacteria all the time, and even beneficial yeasts, we're missing a huge part of our DNA. There's as many bacterial cells in your body as human cells. And some days they outnumber you 10 to 1. So you're not really you if you don't have your bacteria. And I could quote study after study about why that's beneficial, but yeah, wide and varied. You want to get a good selection of them.
So you said sittings and smoking.
Yeah.
How many miles a day should we walk?
It's about 6,000 steps. 10,000 steps is the American Heart Association's guidelines. But yeah, you should have a certain amount of motion and activity to really get your blood flowing. Circulation's key to life, right? Your heart pumps blood out. Everything else is a passive drainage return. The fluid that circulates around your brain and spinal cord, that's all passive return. Your lymphatic fluid, that basically is the sewage system of your immune system, that's all passive return. Your digestion, that's all passive return. So everything except what keeps you alive immediately needs to move to be healthy because you need circulation. So they found that about 10,000 steps is ideal. 6,000 steps is sort of the baseline.